Hey y'all, this is BG Codes and I am Brad Garropy. Happy Hacktoberfest. Every year I participate to try to get that sweet, sweet t-shirt, just like I did in 2019. And I figured it would be a good time to show you what I built this year and how I built it. So we're going to do a little bit of a dev vlog and show you some code. Let's hop into it. First of all, if you're not familiar, this is this year's shirt. Pretty sweet if you ask me. I really like the color scheme. And what I built was something called a now page. It's a page that kind of on your website that kind of explains what you've been up to if a friend you hadn't seen in a year had asked you. And so this just kind of goes through like where I'm living, how work is going, what I'm building, and any like friends and family type stuff that's going on. And I also built it in a way that I can create new now entries, and you can go back in the past and see what I had written in the past with these newer and older buttons. So this is a Gatsby website. And so the first thing I did was created a now directory in my content folder and made two entries. So this one is the real one, and this one is the fake one I made for the purposes of this video. The front matter has only a single field, which is the date. And I use that to sort these things and generate those navigation links that go forward and backwards. So now that I have the data, I need to tell Gatsby where and how to read that data. So I'm using Gatsby source file system in the Gatsby config and creating a new named content type called now at this path, content/now. This kind of gets it into the pipeline for data processing. So once I have that, I can actually create a page. Source pages now. My goal was to have bradgarropy.com/now, which you see right here. And that'll show you the latest now post. And then anytime you click on one of these older ones, it'll be now/the date of the post. So not only do I need a top level page, I also need templates for templatized pages that I generate based on the date. So let's get started with that top level page. I created a component called now that encapsulates everything about what a now entry looks like. It'll do the header, it'll put the date there in this format. It'll render out the content and the buttons and the inspiration. And so all it takes is the now entry and then the date strings of the next newer and next older post. And you can actually get some really great information from Gatsby's GraphQL layer about this. So let's hop into the GraphQL Explorer and I can show you. So what I'm actually doing, and let me bump up the font size for you guys just a little bit. I am asking for parsed markdown in the content now directory, and I sort it by the front matter date in descending order. So meaning that the most recent will be at the top. And I limit it to 2, and I will show you why I do that in a reason. So node is going to be the single most recent now post. And then you've got next and previous. And this is really cool. Imagine you have a sorted list of now posts and you're at post at index 2. Next will point to the post at index 3, and the previous will point to the post at index 1. So this is kind of the perfect way to query using GraphQL for your adjacent nodes. And this works perfect for what I was going for, the next and previous buttons. So for instance, you'll see you've got the first one, which you actually get the content for, and then the next and previous nodes. So I only have 2 entries here, so I would only expect to have a next for one and null for previous, and then vice versa, a previous for one and a next for another. Now you're like, hey, why did you have to ask for 2 entries? Couldn't you just ask for the most recent post? Yeah, well, I tried that. And with a limit of 1, next and previous are always null. So you have to ask for at least 2 items in order to get those pointers to the adjacent nodes. And another thing worth mentioning, these kind of next and previous nodes only exist if you're querying for all markdown remark and not just a single markdown remark. So with that data, I can pass it into the now component. I have everything I need, including the parsed HTML to give as the now parameter. And then for newer and older, I either pass in null or the date string, which I've formatted here as year-month-day. So that will take care of the now page. But what about these other ones that are generated as a template for any given date? For that, we have to use Gatsby node. This is how you programmatically create pages. So you use this create pages and you export it from Gatsby node. And what I did here was I made a GraphQL request to ask for like multiple entries of now posts in addition to my blog posts here. I want to call something out. I encountered an error while building this because I had 2 separate GraphQL calls, one that got the posts and one that got the nows. Don't do this. It gives you a really weird cryptic error and it just didn't make any sense. And then I realized you should just be combining these. What was happening is it wasn't sorting properly the nows. I feel like it does some kind of optimization. So now that you've combined these, it actually returns as you would expect. So I'm doing the same type of query, but we can just kind of copy and paste this into graphical to see what we're getting back. But essentially, this is going to get back the same thing. It's going to get the date for the current node, the next and previous pointers. And then for each of these things, for each now, we are going to create a now page. Let's hop into GraphQL and kind of show you what that would look like. There we go. So I only have 2. It's an array of 2 entries. One has a date of 9/25. And so the next one in the list, because it's in descending order, is in August on the 14th. And then vice versa for the entry that is in August, its next is null because there's nothing prior to that. And its previous is the entry in September. So now as we go to build out these now pages, all I have to do is grab the date of the current post because I will be passing that in as an ISO string to use in the page query. And then I'm also going to pass in the newer and older dates as page context. And let me get into that a little bit more. So I use the template located here, templates/now.js, in order to generate these pages. Remember, you can only get your next and previous pointers if you query for all markdown remark. But in this case, we only need data for a single markdown remark file. So because that's the case, I'm using page context to pass in the next to newest and next oldest now entries, rather than doing it in the GraphQL query. So we use the page context date here to have a page query that grabs exactly that now entry. And we do the same thing, pass it to the now component with the newer and older data. And that's how we get these dynamic pages that are located at the date string there. And you've got older, a link to the next oldest and the next newest if those fields are populated. And you'll see that the date is formatted slightly differently here, fully spelled out, than it is here. And that happens because in Gatsby node, Oh, looks like I actually formatted all the same. I do 2 ISO string on the date when I pass it in here. So that's just a quick little tour of what I built for Hacktoberfest 2020. It took a couple nights and I made the PRs against my own repository. Shortly after that, I hopped on stream with James Quick and we ran through a couple PRs for his project called DevDesk. It's pretty sweet. You should go check it out. So thanks for watching. This has been BG Codes and I'm Brad Garropy. Happy hacking, y'all.